the Brett Allan Show, our very interesting and in-depth conversations continue with the world of voice acting. We just recently spoke to Eric Bauza. And you're in your booth now. We're talking to Colleen O'Shaughnessy, who voices Tails from the Sonic series and can currently be heard in an episode or two of the new Knuckles series today on Paramount Plus. But your biography of work is I mean, literally, I think if anybody turns a television on and watches a cartoon, they're gonna hear your voice. Thank you for your time and hanging out today. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's so nice meeting you.
Yeah, it's nice meeting you too. Well, I want to start out with Tails because you have been friends with Tails for a very long time. This is part of your world, and you've lent your voice to their voice, and we are getting more and more of an opportunity to experience Tails and who they are and becoming part of the world. Where did that journey start? We'll begin there because to be able to voice a character is one thing, but to do it for as long as you've done it and to be the go-to person is a really big thing for sure.
Yeah, it's been tremendous. So it started for me with Sonic Boom. I did an audition for Sonic Boom. I had a callback, and when I went in, for the callback, they give you direction and they kind of, move you around. I had not listened to anything that anybody else had done previously, so I wasn't trying to sound like anybody else or do, it really came across as a new thing for me, and I didn't listen to anybody else's interpretation. And I mean, I guess they liked what I did so I was cast in Sonic Boom, but I didn't know that it was going to come along with the video game. So I booked it, and then they were like, "We're going to do a video game first." I'm like, bonus. But who knew it would, turn into what it's turned into. I'm so lucky, and I'm honored, honestly, to give him a voice. I mean, look at him. He's so cute. And it's 10 years. I mean, it's phenomenal, truly.
It really is. Well, as I mentioned, we spoke to Eric the other day, and your name came up in the conversation a couple times because I think that world that you're in it's big, but it's also very small. Like there's a handful of voice actors that just do all the things. And again, your name came up a couple times, and that was like, oh, well, we're talking to her here in just a couple days. But the whole idea of what you do, I think, is so cool because, as I said to him, it's not like you're doing impressions, so to speak, of these characters, but you're voicing them, and you're also lending your acting skills, your being in the moment. I mean, all of it, it's all very encompassing, right? It's so huge. It's like so different than I think anything anybody else would do, even like the world of acting itself, because it's so different and so fun.
All you have is your voice. You don't even have your face or your hands, or you don't have props or costumes or sets or any of that. So sometimes you don't even have your fellow actors. You just, you're in a very small
in the bomb shelter.
Just talking to yourself. So
yeah, I want to talk about that because you are in your booth and you have a very nice microphone. It's sound protected. It's all a big deal. Now, I imagine this is your voice booth, but it's things that you've created over time. Yes, as you have progressed in this industry. When you first started out and you knew you were going to be doing this like as a career, did you know where to start as far as what to buy? Who taught you that part?
Seriously, this whole situation came out of COVID. I mean, I was doing auditions in my closet before COVID. Had already kind of started transitioning because I would go into my agent's office or I go to a casting office or, in person. And that's how a lot of my fellow voice actors, I got to know a lot of them just in the, in the lobby of our agent's office, or in passing in the studio. And then COVID happened and it was like, eek, what do we do? I mean, I literally was using my iPad, and for a while I had an external mic, and then the connector thing broke. And so I was literally, my auditions were just on my iPad with just the microphone from the iPad. And then it was like, oh, we need to be like broadcast quality, like professional. Woo. Okay. So I luckily at the time I had a friend who he's a music producer and he's amazing. So he lent me a Neumann for a little bit. And my son had a Scarlett Solo. And so that was like my jerry rig thing in my closet. And things were balanced on my underwear drawer. It was crazy. But luckily I had the space because a lot of people had to struggle with how do I figure out a space in my apartment or in my house somewhere that's, quiet enough to make it work. And so luckily my closet worked. And then my husband built me this beautiful space, which I love. But yeah, it was a scramble to figure that. So it was really like the learning curve was crazy. I'm not a sound engineer. I don't know what I'm doing. I now have an Apollo twin, which is exciting. And I have this beautiful microphone that I love. But that was hard, really, because I'm not, I do not pretend to know the sound world. God bless them. Seriously, they are amazing. And every session that we were doing remote, I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because they had to be IT people too. Like, they don't know what computer you have. Like, just because you're good at sound stuff, I mean, they're probably pretty good at computers, but that doesn't mean they know everything about your computer that you happen to have. They really had to work overtime. So
What a time that was. Yeah,
it
no,
was crazy.
and now I imagine, are you still in person, or you can now pretty much do everything from your studio there, I
I
would think.
still can. It's sort of, it was 50-50 for a while, and now it's more like 80-20 in the studio, 80, which I don't mind because then I don't have to think about it. I don't have to worry about knobs or, oh gosh, what happened to the internet? Why can't I hear you anymore? Like, did I push the right button? Oh no, I'm muted. Like, there's so many things that I'd rather, like, that's their job. This is my
And you
job.
just go in and perform your
Yeah.
voices,
And then
and
I don't
you're
have to, yeah, I just do my job that I'm supposed to do, not everybody's,
I love it. Yeah. I mean, Zoom is complicated enough. Just
Yeah.
meeting like this, like making sure everything's working. And, all of these events that we do for film and television, these press events, the virtual thing just stuck, and they realized that we can save a lot of money by just doing Zooms and hiring a company to put it all together and go that way. But I imagine it's fun. What's it like showing up in the lobby of a studio with your voice compadres all hanging out? Are you guys doing voices together, or is it just mostly like, how are you? How are you? Just
It's
hanging
more
out.
about, yeah, how are you? How are the kids? What,
Yeah.
all the regular, like, normal life stuff. But the thing about voice actors is they are so different than actors in other parts of the community. I don't know what it is about voice, maybe because we get to do cartoons and how serious can you be? But they are just the best people. Like, I love them all so dearly, and they're all so funny and so ridiculously talented. I mean, talk about Eric Bowser. Holy cow, he's amazing. I just absolutely love him. And everybody, like, I could go on and on and on with lists and lists of names that I've had the privilege of working with who are just, they're so talented, but they're also amazing human beings. They're all just so lovely. So yeah, we hang out in the kitchen of the studio and just, oh wait, we have to go back and record. Okay.
That's funny. Yeah, it is different. Like, we've talked to so many people, but voice actors are just different altogether.
Yeah.
Again, just hearkening to our conversation with him, you're talking, and then all of a sudden Bugs Bunny comes out, Daffy Duck comes out,
Yeah.
Woody Woodpecker. And it's just like, I say, I'm talking to you, I see you, but in my ears, I hear Bugs Bunny talking to me. It's just
Yeah.
so wild to be able to go in and out of that. Now, when you started voice acting, had you done classes, voice acting classes? Like, let's go back to the beginning of your journey. Like, I was reading and researching, you had this ability, but you didn't really think or know necessarily that it was going to turn out to be a lifelong career for you. Like, I guess you couldn't really know that at the beginning.
Who knew? I mean, I started out doing musical theater. The plan was to go to grad school and do music therapy, but I was doing a double major at the University of Michigan. I was like, I'm gonna finish, but I'm done with school. I can't do school anymore. And maybe if things had turned out differently, maybe I would have just taken a break and gone back to school. But so I used to just do voices all the time. They would just come out. I was in a group called the Peanut Butter Players. It was a children's luncheon theater troupe. And the voices would just come, and we would do like mock awards at the end of the thing, and they're like, most likely to be a Muppet Baby someday, which, and it was a joke, but I it still didn't click. And then I was doing a voice. I was at Michigan. It was the end of a dance class, and I was doing, I don't know, messing around with somebody after class. And the dance instructor came running over, and she's like, was that you? And I apologized. I'm like, I'm so sorry. They just come out. And she said, no, 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 you need to do voiceover. And I was like, well, it just didn't occur to me that that was a job that you could do. I don't know. I don't know why, but I'm so glad that she said something, because that was it for me. Like, once she said that, I was like, okay, well, let's figure this out. How do I do this? So
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's interesting because like even to become an actor, the advice is always, do community theater or read plays or do student films or do this and do that and then work your way up to those other things about agents and auditioning. But voice acting, there's not like a lot of information out there. I mean, you see other actors giving class. I think there's probably classes you can take, but
yeah.
it's not necessarily like, is it a direct path to do that? Like, I want to be a voice actor and it's ABC, or is it just like your situation where somebody spoke to you, said you should do it? Did you have somebody helping you along the way as you began the process?
I think everybody's path is different. For me, I realized I want to do animation. So,
Okay.
like, I could have probably stayed in the Detroit area and done, like, I don't know, like commercials and things like that, which, not to poo-poo commercials, but I really wanted to do animation. And at the time, if you wanted to do animation, you had to be in Los Angeles. So I
Yeah.
saved as much money as I could, and I moved to Los Angeles, and it was really hard. But the first thing I did was get into an acting class in Los Angeles. And I was like, well, I'm here. Let's try everything, like on camera, whatever. So I really tried, but then it's also then sort of, you also have to make, you have to survive and pay your rent and do all those,
Yes.
adult things. And then, so like juggling all of that and trying to do everything on camera, as I'm like, oh, I could be in a play. Like, I was trying to do too many things. And I had to kind of just be like, if I had to choose, I would have chosen voiceover every day and twice on Sunday. So I stopped like targeting the other casting directors for on camera and those agents and all of that stuff, and just really focused on voiceover. I kept taking my acting classes because, seriously, it's in the name, voice acting. If you don't have that foundation, it makes it that much, it's just that much harder.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you have this attitude of, we're just going to try it all and then you can narrow it down. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
that when you're trying to figure out how to do something creatively, it goes through iterations. Yeah. And then you're kind of like, okay, I don't have time to go out and audition for a Pharrell commercial. I think I need to focus on just voice acting. So you knew you could do it. You go out there, you try different things. First real voice audition that you had, in that, did that solidify for you that, like, okay, we can keep going with this regardless of what the road might look like as far as challenges or difficulty?
I think that the thing that really solidified it for me was I kind of did things a little bit backwards as far as specifically voiceover went. I was like I said, I was taking my acting class, but I put together a demo
Okay.
before I took an actual voiceover class. Like, I mean, there are technical things that you do have to learn. You have to learn about mic technique and, don't touch it. That's not your job. Things like that. Like, and like how to stay on the mic as opposed to like, and don't move around. Like, there's a lot of like technical things that you do have to learn, but I hadn't taken that class yet. But I was in I took a class after I had done my demo, and the casting director, like, I just got such positive feedback from the instructor that I was like, okay, I feel like, okay, I'm not giving up yet. I mean, there were a lot of times when I was like, this is bananas. This is not going to happen. This is so hard. I was down to like 17 cents, and I had 3 different jobs. It was crazy. I was literally eating and changing my clothes for the next job in my car while driving a stick shift. That's probably not the safest way to get around LA.
No.
It's really not. Um,
No.
but I had bills, and so there were lots of times when I was just like, maybe this just isn't going to happen. And then I went to producers for a show. Like I had gotten an agent that was, I don't know if they still do this, but they called it hip pocketing at the time,
Oh yeah,
where
I don't know if they still do, but I'm very familiar with the
okay.
term. That's yeah.
Yeah, so they're kind of like trying you out without actually signing you. And so the very first audition that I had with this new agent, I went to producers and he was like, well, great, let's sign you up. I didn't book it, but he signed me up. And then over an entire year, I think I had a total of 8 auditions or something like that. And I'm like, well, if they say it takes 100 auditions to book your first thing, I'm never going to book anything with, like I kept making up reasons to call and be like, hey, do you have any demos that you like? Do I need to send you more? Like, I just making up reasons to call just so that they would have my name in their, forefront of their mind or whatever. So I was like, you know what? I'm never going to look for a new agent if I don't leave. And so I left and I was like, it was so scary because like, how do you let go of an agent when you already have one and it's so hard to get one? And I was like, but I had to, and I reworked my demo a little bit. And then I at the time I worked at it was a cassette duplication place.
Oh wow,
How
okay.
old I am. Yeah, we were still making cassettes. And I would just, anyone that came in with any voiceover stuff, I would just pick their brains. I'm like, who's your agent? Who are the best agents in town? Like just I probably really bothered people. I don't know. I just kept asking questions. So I had narrowed it down to 8 agencies that I was like, okay, these are the ones that that I'm okay with. And if they say no, I'm going to keep bugging them until somebody says yes. And I sent out 2 cassettes at a time, and I had my cover letter and I had my whole plan, and I was down to my last 2, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to redo this whole thing again. And I got the call, and I literally, my first thought was, they're calling to tell me to stop bothering. But it was to come in, and they threw me in the booth that day. Like we did this interview, and then they threw me in the booth that day, and I'm still with that same agency. And that
Yeah.
first week, I had 8 auditions as opposed to an entire year. So,
Wow. So fascinating. Well, now here you are,
here I am.
and you have great measurable success. When you do your public appearances at all the cons and things like that, when you meet people, what is like the most common question that you get asked? Do you get asked, can you do this voice for me? Do you get asked, how do I get into voice acting? Because that's your opportunity and the fans' opportunity to connect with you in a way outside of this medium in an interview that they might not normally have a chance to.
Lots of people ask, yes, how do you get into voiceover? A lot of people ask, was it different working on the games versus the show versus the movie? I get asked that question a lot, which for me, I approach Tails the same way. Because to me, he's the same little dude. He just finds himself in different circumstances. So say it's a racing game. Like that's just it's gonna be more heightened. It's gonna be more like da da da, let's go, like that. It's going to be mostly up here, and that's a very specific kind of game. But then you have a game like Frontiers where there's more dialogue and it's more serious. Like whatever situation he finds himself in, that's where I go, because as an actor, that's where I'm supposed to go. That's where my director leads me. That's what the writing calls for. Sonic Boom was very silly. We had so much fun. It was a blast. We were like laughing our faces off, which was awesome. But he was still Tails, it just wasn't as, you know, people will use the word like grounded or serious or those kinds of, I don't know. And he's maybe a little bit more mature, but it's to me, it's all goes back to your acting 101. Who are you? Where are you? Who are you talking to? Where have you been? Where are you going? Like those are the basic questions. So, I always feel like that they might be disappointed by that answer. Like, but it's for me, he's the same. I approach him the same. It just matters, what circumstances he finds himself in. So,
Yeah, we had the privilege of chatting with Sarah Natacheni a couple years ago, and she said the same thing. And your name came up in that conversation too, as
oh, I
somebody
love her.
that she looks up to. But Ash hasn't changed over the years, and they do that on purpose, because I mean he's a character. So you appear in the Sonic the Hedgehog films, which is huge. We got that. My 9-year-old is obsessed with Tails, so he wants to know, when does Tails get his own movie? Obviously,
I want to
from
know
the
that
mouths of
too.
babes, but like, when can we see Tails in his own feature
Oh,
film?
I love it. He's my new favorite guy. Tell him I hope so too. I mean, I would love that. That would be amazing. I would love to have like an origin story tales thing and make it a musical. I'm just kidding.
Why not? I
But
mean,
I mean I joked with Jeff Fowler. I'm like, we need a song at the end of Sonic 2 or 3. You know, because Ben sings. I don't know if he just sings, but it's Knuckles, so it doesn't matter. And it would be awesome. I would love that. But
that would be fun. Well, thank you so much. Again, your filmography and just your body of work is so massive. You've done Avengers, Heroes, you've done Digimon. I mean, good grief, just so many different ones. It's a hard question to answer. So, but is there a favorite, or are they all just very special and unique to you, Colleen, out of all the things that you've done?
it really is hard. It's a hard question to answer because you feel like every character that you are privileged to voice and bring life to, if you have to bring a piece of yourself, you know, and so
Yeah.
they all feel like little pieces of me. So it's really hard to pick favorites. I mean, of course, I absolutely love Tails to bits, but I loved playing jazz on Danny Phantom. That was so much fun, and the experience of working together as a cast at Nickelodeon was amazing. Um, Getting to play Wasp on the Avengers, like that was the first time I got to be a superhero, and she was snarky
Oh
and
yeah,
she
Jane Van
was so
Dyne.
cool.
That's very, very big for you.
Yeah, so that was huge, and that was again so much fun. I just love what I do. I really do. And I'm so lucky to get to do it. You know, every day that I get to be in front of a microphone is a good day. So
Yes, well, Knuckles is out on Paramount Plus now.
yeah,
We got to screen it a couple weeks early, and man, that's one of the best perks of this job is getting to watch things. So
yeah,
my kid was thrilled, and
yay,
of course, Sonic 1 and 2, and 3 is in the works, from what I understand too. So
yeah.
that's huge. I think we're ready for a third one because those movies are just the best. Like,
Yeah.
they're so much fun. I mean,
Oh,
just
just you guys are gonna love it. I can't wait for
I
people to.
know. Well,
There's so much fun in this next
yeah,
movie.
we spoke to Lee Majdu. When the second one came out, and just we were hoping for a third, and of course we got the sneak of Knuckles and the sneak of Tails and like all these other really important characters in this story. So we're excited over here in Colorado. We can't wait.
Yay!
Are you coming to any events here this summer in Colorado, the fan expos, or I don't know how all the particulars work of that, but I know I'm on part of that this year. So we hope you get to make it out to one of these things soon.
You know, I was supposed to do Denver and now I'm not sure, but I post everything on all my socials. Next up I'll be in Miami. I'm trying to think of where the closest I'll be to Colorado is this summer. I'm not sure.
Not to put you on the
My
spot.
schedule is
I
like,
know
no,
those
it's
things are
okay.
like,
It's okay.
there's a lot of people that make those decisions. I always just like to
Yeah.
ask because we're
Yeah.
hosting this year panels and things. And so I'm
Are you in
excited.
Denver? Or you're in
I'm in Loveland near Denver. Yeah.
Level?
So
Okay. I
we,
did
the, sh-
Colorado Springs last year.
yes, yes. You had a huge line. I mean, people just, it's crazy to see the fan turnout for these events and to meet like you or Billy West or Rob Paulson or, it's crazy. Like, it's cool. I think it's awesome because like everybody lines up to meet the Karate Kid or whatever, which
Right.
is cool. And not saying negativity about that, but like to meet you or anybody else that voices these characters of our childhood, are just, it's a cool opportunity. Well, thank you for your time. Congratulations. I
Thank
love
you.
your booth setup. Thank you for showing up and hanging out and doing a little bit of press. I'm sure you've got lots to do. So we'll check out your website and see what's next for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I post everything. So, but thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful talking with you.
Absolutely.